move to the second segment, the fun segment where we are going to be talking about Active Directory enumeration, and it has a practical component, right? So we are going to try showcasing our practical stuff as well.
So this practical, I have taken it from one of the labs that we provide at our conferences. So from that lab, I have just taken out this practical, and that's what we are going to show. So in our conferences as well, we teach our students or other people same kind of stuff.
Okay. So the first command is whoami that we usually run. So what this basically does is we need to know that with what username we are logged in and which domain we are. So you can see that the domain is security and the name is Fox. The username is Fox. Okay. So the next command.
Yeah. So this this net user / domain command is basically we are using this command to find out all the users that are present in the domain. So that's what we see. So these are some of the, not some, but all of the users that are present in the domain. Yeah. So now what we are trying to do, now we are trying to find out basically the information about the current user, that's the Fox in this case, to find out, this user is part of which group. As we can see that this user is part of normal domain users group, and when the user is created, when did he last logged in. Yeah. So this kind of information we find out about our user.
Yeah, also the group members, we can see that the user is actually a part of the domain user. So usually in a network, whenever we are pen testing, we are logged in as a domain user. So yeah.
So that's the next thing. Now we are trying to find out about all the groups that are present in the domain. So in which we clearly see that there is a domain admins group, that's the very high privilege group. So yeah, basically we find out what are the different groups that are present in the domain.
This is all a part of enumeration. So knowing more about the network. So yeah. As I said before, we are using command prompt for now. There are other ways we can also do it. Yes. So basically, this is talking about the domain group, that is domain admins. And basically you can see that there is a user named BKB admin who is the administrator.
Yeah. So as we see that in this domain, we see that there are two domain administrators. That's a good thing, because in many environments we have seen that, like let's suppose there are 100 users and they have 20 domain admins. So there is no use for 20 domain admins to have in that environment. So yeah, generally that's what we advise our clients as well, to have less than 5 domain admins, because fewer the number of domain admins, fewer the chances of misconfigurations. So yeah, let's go to the next command. So yeah, here as we know that there are 2 domain administrators in the domain. Now we will see. Let's see. Okay. So here we are trying to find out the domain password policy, because that's very important. Why? Because it helps us as pen testers or attackers as well, to find out the domain password policy. Why? Because we need this. Why? Because it helps us to fine tune the password spraying and brute force attacks. If we are not careful about this, the policies, then we are going to basically block, or I would say lock our user. So that's why we need this information, so that we can fine tune the password spray attacks. So if we see in this environment, we see that minimum password length is 7, which is quite weak. Generally we advise to have a minimum password of at least 12 characters. And also if you see the lockout threshold in this environment is set to never. It means that we can just spray unlimited amount of passwords, and usually we get a hit if there is a weak password.
So it's 7 and unlimited tries. Yeah, right? So it's very likely that an attacker can gain access, right? Okay.
So yeah, I think that's what we are showing here, highlighting here. Same things. And lockout duration is basically, it will be logged out for 10 minutes. And observation window is like, we are checking for a window of 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, how many passwords we are spraying. So yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the next command.
So here we are trying to find out the domain controllers that are present in the domain. So using command prompt, we can find out. So if we see in this, so in this environment, we see that there is only one domain controller, and that's the primary domain controller. So in our engagements, we usually see that there are more than one domain controllers. and one of them will be a primary domain controller. So if you are running any exploits or anything like that, don't run it on the primary domain controller, because it is going to bring down the domain as well. Yeah.
Okay, so these were the tools that were command line tools, as you could see, that we were using command prompt, solely command prompt, in order to find and enumerate the network. Now we are going to use something that is very commonly used and personally my favorite as well, that's PowerView. So basically it's a module, and let's just get to it. So before we actually execute certain scripts, we need to use the command PowerShell execution policy bypass so that we could import PowerView, and then we can start off enumerating the networks as well.
Yeah, so just continuing here. So basically we are bypassing the by default security policy of the Windows that has been applied. So in the default setting, the policy is set to restricted, hence it will not allow you to run any scripts. So that's why we have to first bypass it, and then we can load our scripts.
Yeah. And I guess the antivirus also kind of makes a bit of a mess over there. Yeah.
I think now we are going to import the script using the import module commandlet. And once the modules are imported, then we can just run the functions that are provided by PowerView. So usually the same stuff we are going to do same again with what we have done with the a command prompt. So if you see here, the first thing that we are trying to find out the name of the domain is, we see that the name of the domain is security.redfox.local and the name of the forest is redfox.local. So I think right now we are in a child domain, and the name of the domain controller is dc-02. That's what we saw in using command prompt as well. So again the same thing, using PowerView also we can find out the domain controller. Correct. So same thing here, we will show that in this domain there is a single domain controller, and yeah, that's about it.
Okay, again the same thing, number of users in the domain.
Yeah. So this is I think this is for.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It is actually the properties of our user.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So as you could see, the first command that we ran, it was whoami, and we were logged in the network as the user Fox. But when you can see using PowerView again, we can get the properties of our username.
Yeah.
So you can get more into it, like the groups and a lot of things.
Yeah. So I think now we are going to find out the description property of all the users. That's very important. So if you're thinking that if we see that in this case, let this command run, and then I will. So let's just play it. So if we see that there in this, when we are trying to find out all the domain users and checking the description property, we see that that's a possible password, right? So that's what we also see in our engagement. So if you think it's that easy, believe me, it's quite easy when we are in the engagements. There are certain engagements where we have finished up the engagement in 15 minutes just in the enumeration phase.
Yeah, because there was one crazy thing that we had a network, right? And we actually got the password of the domain admin in the year itself. Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite possible to find out things, very interesting things, I would say, that in using this command. So yeah, let's move on to the next command. So here I think, so here we are trying to find out the computers that are reachable from our systems, so that we know that these are the computers that are running in the environment and how we can move laterally between the computers. So that's very important to know. So I think, that's what we are trying to find out here. So as we can see that in this environment there are 4 computers. One of them is our domain controller, that we already know that it's the DC-02 is the domain controller, and that's the primary domain controller, and looks like there are 2 workstations, WS01, WS02, and there is a server also in the environment which is SRV02.
So what is there's this ping option also you have given.
Yeah, so this ping is basically checking which systems are reachable. So let's suppose there are there are some systems that are down, it will not show those systems. So we know that we can't do anything.
Basically,
with the
it's like which computers are available right now that we can fiddle with.
Yeah.
So that's why the ping command as well.
Exactly. So yeah, I think let's see the next command, which is getnet computer, and I think yeah. So here we are trying to find out the version of operating systems that running on the systems, because that's very important, because we see there are environments which are still running XP in their network, so which are quite vulnerable to kernel exploit, SMB exploits, eternal blue attacks like that. So yeah, so basically just play it.
Yeah, vulnerable and outdated components, right?
Yeah,
so it's really not a good you need to be keep on updating your systems in order to have a more secure network, I must say.
Yeah, so we try to find out most of the operating systems using this command. Basically, we are using a regex here to try to find out. Just let it run.
Sure.
So we see now here we are trying to find out the servers, server 2019 which are running in the domain. I think we have some computers that are running 2019.
Yeah.
Apart from that, we also look for computers which are running XP. That's what we just talked about.
Yeah.
And now we will check for Windows 7 systems that are running. Let's see, now we are checking for Vista. As we see that there are no vulnerable systems in this environment. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so these are some of the vulnerable operating systems that we look at, and we report that to our client as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on to the next command. Here we are trying to find out all the groups that are present in the environment.
Yes.
So yeah, so these are the groups and their properties, and we can just use the pipe operator to just select
a specific group and to
basically to find out just the name of the groups. Yeah. So yeah, it's the same output that there are domain admins group, domain users group, and some of these groups are default, some of them are user created. So yeah.
So usually attackers are after which group?
Yeah.
Domain admins group, right?
Because that group has the highest level of privileges in the domain. So that's why if we can just add a user to that group, it means we are the domain admin and we can do anything in the domain.
Escalate your privileges, right?
Yeah, anything. So here we are trying to find out members of a domain. If we see, that's what we also see, that here we are trying to find out the members of domain admins. If we see the output, there are 2 members. That's what we also saw in the command prompt output, that there is a backup admin as well as the administrator. If you see the member property there. So I think that's what we are highlighting here as well. So yeah, that's the same account name, which is domain admins, and these are the 2 members that we already saw.
The backup admin and the default administrator. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, moving on to the next command. Let's see. So I think again here it's related to group only. So here we are trying to find out a user is part of which group. So yeah, so let's see the command, which is getnet. I think it is group, and then we will just give the name of the user, and we know that user is part of which groups. So in this case we are trying to find out administrators. Just normal command, we can give any user other username here as well. So generally we give the user that we have, so that we know that we are part of which groups, and then we will look at the privileges of that group, and we have those privileges. So yeah. So yeah, same here.
So this particular user administrator is part of these groups.
These groups, correct. Yeah. So yeah, it's a very high privilege user.
So this is how actually an attacker gets to know about the network. Like, hey, I need to find who are the domain admins. I need to know how the high privilege users are there, and then he starts escalating. Obviously,
during the enumeration phase itself, as an attacker, we are able to find out the way where we can go from here. So yeah, that's why this enumeration is a lengthy process. But if you are really good at enumeration, I think the exploitation part is very easy, to be honest. So that's why we try to enumerate everything. so that we don't miss out on any
Easy policy.
low hanging fruits. Yeah, as we just mentioned, we usually get domain admins very quickly.
Yeah. Even in the especially the description field one, that's one crazy thing. Like,
so again here I think it's the same thing. Here we are trying to find out the users which are part of administrators group. So as we can see, these are some of the I think there are two groups: enterprise admins, domain admins, which are part of this group, as well as one user as well, which is administrator. So yeah, we can have a group inside a group kind of scenario as well. Same thing here, we are trying to find out the domain admins, the users, the members of domain admins group. So once we have enumerated user objects and group objects, now we will go for the organizational unit. So organizational is think of it like as a container, or you can think of it like as a folder which is used to organize things in Active Directory. So as we can see, these are the organizational units. Now we will try to find out information about a single organizational unit. We can just use get net OU and give the identity of the organizational unit. If we see in this case, we are just trying to find out the information that we have on the domain controller's organizational unit. Yeah. Now we are trying to find out the group policy objects. So the group policy objects in Active Directory are used to enforce policies on computers and users. So that's what we are seeing here. Here we are trying to find out all the group policies that are present in the domain. So some of them are default, some of them are created by admins. So the user creative ones are very very interesting to look at, because usually that's where the misconfigurations are happening. So yeah. So yeah, and again here we are trying to using this identity option, we try to find out about a single object. That's why we use identity for all of these commands. So yeah, again here we see that we are trying to find out information about this secure GPO DC group policy objects. So this is how we try to find out information about organizational units and group policy objects. They go hand in hand, because group policy objects are applied on organizational units, and all the computers and users present in the organizational unit will have the same policies that we have defined in the group policy objects.
Understood.
So yeah.
So can you explain what have you seen with GPOs in real world environments? How can an attacker, let's say you get these GPOs, how will you actually go about some scenario you could explain?
Yeah, it's the scenario that we have seen in our engagements as well. So in our labs as well, we have that scenario. Basically, okay, not to give spoilers, but anyway, I will tell some of the parts, because anyway. So basically, what we see that let's suppose that we have a privileges of a user, and that user has a right privilege on a group policy object, and we know that this group policy object is applied on an organizational unit, and in organizational units we have all the computers. If we can make some settings at that group policy object, because using our right privileges, all the settings will get to the computers and yeah, correct. So let's suppose in that group policy object we can create a scheduled task, and that scheduled task basically can give administrator. In that scheduled task we will define a command which will make us as the local administrator, and when the GPO is applied on all the computers, the same command will run on all the computers, giving us the local administrator on those computers. So that's the attack path that we have seen in our engagements. So yeah, this kind of misconfiguration can happen.
Very dangerous.
Yeah, very dangerous.
Even get local admin access on a
domain controller. So let's take this scenario. So here we are trying to find out the group policy objects that are applied on the domain controller, which is DC-02, and let's suppose there is a GPO called secure GPO DC, and if our user has that right privilege on that group policy object, we can become local administrator on the domain controller, and game is over from there. So yeah, here we are trying to, and in the previous command we tried to find out the forest. I think yeah. So let's see this command. So using this command we can try to find out our own domain as well as the domain we are trusting as. So I think we looked at that our domain is security.local, and our parent domain is fox.local. So that's what we say. So yeah, moving on to this next command, which is very interesting, which is invoke share founder. So let's suppose once our enumeration is done, we are not trying to find, so let's suppose we don't find any interesting path that we can execute. So then we go to this finding the information in the shares. So using this invoke share finder command, which is a part of a PowerView module. So when we run this command, it will try out and go and see all the shares that are open, and it will just check whether there are any information especially this invoke share finder, it will find out all the open shares that are present. And if we want to find out the information, the sensitive information in the shares, then we have very amazing tool which is called Snaffler. That we regularly use in our engagements. So let's see that Snaffler here as well. So coming to this industry, I was really blown away by this the scale of this tool. So yeah, many of the times we see that credentials are stored in the open shares, and this tool will try to find out the specific password that is stored.
And the best thing about Snaffler is actually it gives you output in
color
coding.
Yeah.
So it's more better, like usually when you are trying to map it.
So in this scenario, let it run, and then we will see. So using this basically based on the severity of the sensitive information, it will color code the output. If you see there is red, yellow, green, it means that the red one is obviously the sensitive information. Yeah, so it will take some time based on the environment. If there is a very big environment, it is going to take even hours sometimes. So yeah, just let it running, and you can do your enumeration stuff. And when you come back, you have your passwords and everything ready for you, like in most of the cases. Not all. So yeah, as we can see that there are some sensitive information, and let's see. Okay, if you see, I think okay, so looks like it's okay. So in this scenario, if you see, that looks like it's a password of MS SQL user. So that's what they use for a database in the Active Directory environment. So yeah, using that we can find out the name of the user and password, and how we can connect to the database in the network. So yeah, that's again, Snaffler is a very amazing tool. You guys please check out this tool. It will really help you in the engagements as well. Yeah. So I think let's. So this is where the enumeration through command prompt and PowerShell have we usually do. So I think let's now once we have done that, I think
we can just move forward, right? So
yeah.
Okay, so this was actually a fantastic session. This is something that we use day in and day out for our red teams, internal network pen test, you name it, infrastructure pen testing as well.